I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking today. I actually wanted to give you a chance to ask questions. Particularly, my background is I've been in the energy area for about at least 45 years, believe it or not. And I wanted to thank John for a great presentation, by the way. And hats off to all community groups that are doing the hard work and building collaboration to do this work in this space. My last job was heading up a research organisation for the last 4 years, which I set up originally. And one of the things that we did is we've actually set up the first, with South Australia Power Networks and South Australian Government, the first one of these programs with ARENA funding as well. I used to be on the ARENA board as well. And I wish you all the best with getting 2515 off the ground speedily now. And it's a very important work that you're doing. This whole area requires, I think, community engagement, and I'm working with government to try and get more funding for community organisations. And prior to Race 2030, I headed up the Australian Alliance for Energy Productivity, and before that, a company called Energetics, a consulting company. So I've had a lot of experience in the field, and if you want to ask me anything about anything related to energy, I can probably answer fairly knowledgeably. I thought I'd start off by just telling you a little bit about what I did. We came here in December 2020, just missed the COVID lockdown in Sydney, which was great, and loved living down here, and was engaged early on with the Fossil Off campaign and encouraging the decarbonisation of the Southern Highlands, because we want to have a green and unpolluted area, and there's obviously a lot of opportunity for taking fossil fuels out of homes, improving energy efficiency and improving quality of life. And that can be all done simultaneously. So when we got down here, the first thing I wanted to do is to decarbonise my home, and I've probably got, your diagram. And the important thing here is that we went looking for easy stuff first, so improve the insulation in the house. Unfortunately, like many buildings in the Southern Highlands, we found that we had single glazed leaking windows, which is not great. I believe that we should have mandatory requirements for efficiency in the Southern Highlands. It's a cold climate. We shouldn't have houses with single glazed leaky windows. My wife came from Poland. She was shocked that, for a start, you can't even clean the windows, because she's used to having double glazed windows which you can swing in and clean the inside of the window. So we couldn't do anything with the windows. We put solar on the roof. We've got 8.6 kilowatts of solar. We put in water tanks, which is not related to energy, but at the same time, we had a very high efficiency reverse cycle air conditioning system, which was great. We put in a new induction cooktop, and we love using induction cooktop. If you think that you couldn't go off your gas cooktop because it's so wonderful compared to electric, you're probably thinking of those old electric resistance things, but induction couldn't be more different than that. And instantaneous pretty much heating, very flexible, and so easy to clean, and you can keep things simmering very, very easily, and which you can't with gas. And of course no fumes and all that sort of stuff. So that was a no-brainer. We had a very old gas hot water system, and we ditched that and got a heat pump. And we also got all electric stuff for the garden. I've got robotic mowers that do all the mowing with the name Jutson. I had to be like the Jetsons. Everything's electric and robotic at our place. What else do we do? Yeah, we put a solar analytics monitoring system in. I'm actually getting a better one just being installed at the moment, a home energy management system for managing everything, because your hot water system is also good for storing energy. We mentioned air conditioning, the heat pump. Yeah, we've got a green energy contract for supply of electricity. Bought a Tesla Model Y. The only problem with that is that my wife loves driving it so much I never get to drive anymore. Once you've driven an EV, you will never go back to driving an ICE car, I can assure you. It's just like a completely different experience, and it's like, I keep seeing these petrol-driven cars going past and you think, oh God, horse and donkey year age. It's really they're very primitive compared to ours. Very quiet and comfortable. We haven't got a battery yet. I'm waiting to be able to do vehicle to home. where you can discharge from the vehicle to home. Unfortunately, I've been doing a lot of research on this when we were at Race for 2030. I'm still doing some work in this space, and we're probably still 2 years away before it's readily available. But if you want to get ready for it, you can get cars that are going to be set up for vehicle to grid, and when the applications are readily available, they will open the apps on these cars, and you'll be able to charge back to the house. But home batteries, I just haven't been able to justify the cost yet. They haven't come down in price the way the car batteries have. So, but if they come down in price enough, there's going to be an incentive scheme in New South Wales from November that'll help the costing. At that point, I just wanted to open up to you to ask questions. Anything about the whole energy space that has confused you, or you'd like to get some insights, anything about home energy. And someone asked the question about wood. I can give you a little bit of a thing on wood. If wood is genuinely a renewable resource, then it has no carbon emissions, which is great. And if you get dead wood from your own property, from a greenhouse point of view, it's perfectly valid. But it does have lots of pollution problems. A lot of particulate pollution, a lot of carcinogens come from wood fires, I hate to say it. So for me, I would not be using a wood fire in a house, even if I had a lot of dead wood. But from a greenhouse point of view, if you're out in the bush, it's okay to use dead wood. I wouldn't use it in built-up areas because it does cause a lot of particulate pollution. Yeah, basically it's set up to minimise the amount I export to the grid, because you get very little money for that, and maximise the amount I use at home. I'd obviously like to have a battery to help in that process, but I've got a hot water system which I use as thermal storage. Ironically, the very inefficient resistance ones have got a much better heat storage than the heat pump, but the heat pump, it's only got about a kilowatt of heating, but that kilowatt will be run preferentially during the middle of the day when there's lots of solar. So basically when you're running your solar, it's giving out tons of energy during the hot summer days. In the evening you may want to do heating or cooling, and then you need some more energy, and ideally you'll be producing or supplying that from the battery, either a static battery or your car battery. But I'll also be ensuring that I don't run things like my hot water system during those peak periods. Well, this is the thing. I'm obviously an advocate and passionate advocate for energy efficiency and electrification of homes, but don't let anyone tell you that it's easy at the moment, because of all the reasons that people have mentioned. There's poor information around. I am an advocate of having one-stop shops where people can provide a complete range of advice and link up to local contractors. And there are software applications like Boom, and there are a couple of others that can help get you to the right place in your region. And so I think it's very important to get access to the right information, and it's difficult at the moment. So when I put the monitoring system in, I had to get an electrician in. In Australia, we haven't applied the regulations that they have in California and 13 other states to ensure that all the different things can talk to each other. And so there's a whole bunch of regulatory problems here which haven't been resolved. So it's not a simple thing for one monitoring system to talk to everything. You have to get various different little add-ons sometimes, or know specifics about the equipment to be able to know how to connect it. This is ridiculous. And I'm trying to change the regulations currently so that all the things can talk to each other. It's called interoperability. And companies like Tesla, for example, and this is a warning for Tesla owners, of which I am one, great car, but they're a shit company in terms of giving access to their equipment. So most home energy management systems can't talk to Tesla batteries, can't talk to Tesla cars, and so that's a real problem. And it's because Tesla's just decided that they want to have their own walled garden and control everything within it. And this is, again, we could regulate to sort that out, but we haven't. So that makes things much more complicated than they should be. I mean, you can get a CHAdeMO car, like a Nissan Leaf, yeah. So if you've got a Nissan Leaf, you can actually do vehicle to home now. There are apps that are available. You'll have to talk to unfortunately, the network, which is Endeavour at the moment, but a friend of mine, Professor Stuart White, has got an approval in Sydney to do it with the local network. So it's being done, but it's a little bit like a cottage industry at the moment. Those CHAdeMO cars are sort of technology that's on the way out. CCS is the new charging system that's going to be used almost entirely for electric vehicles going forward for charging. Those vehicles are now starting to come into Australia that are going to be set up for bidirectional charging. About a year later than was expected originally. The charges are about 10 grand at the moment, but they're going to come down. I would expect within 2 years to be down maybe 3K rather than 10, because all you've got it's basically an inverter and a charger. So this is not high tech, high cost. It's because it's small volumes and it's pretty much one-offs at the moment, but that will change. So I think if you're looking 5 years out, this will be standard practice. I think you'll get your car and it will have a bidirectional charger, not a single directional charger, and it'll be set up to operate like that. But you ask all the right questions. I mean, these are issues at the moment. Sure. I mean, at the home, I've been doing a lot of posting on industrial decarbonisation too, but I'll keep it to homes. I mentioned the regulatory issue, so I've been pestering people about that. I think that there needs to be a lot more support for community groups, and so I'm very keen to have people like 2515 and Fossil Off being able to apply for full-time project managers, which are funded by the state. I think that it's very, I think it's very appropriate because there's a lot of pent-up capability without the resources to do this properly. I think, and that includes having proper training programs nationally for community groups. I don't think that government has used community groups the way they should be. And if you want to scale this up, it has to be through communities. I think there should be improved information, and I like the idea of setting up one-stop shops across the country with government support again, so that they can answer all of the questions that you have and provide legitimate information and links to suppliers that have been verified, and same like at the Uber Eats or whatever, you can mark people down if you're not happy with their service and they get taken off the list. So they're some of the key things, and I'd like to see policy which really supports the home electrification. At the moment, the home owner has not really been involved in any government policies to provide substantial incentives, except for through the state. The New South Wales state government has got their energy savings scheme. So when you buy a heat pump, you'll get an incentive. In November, there'll be an incentive for home batteries, but apart from that, there's no government support. They've been focusing on the big guys, and I think they should start supporting more the home electrification and decarbonisation. And I think insulation incentives would be good again. They had the whole pink bats thing. It's crazy to have, when we did this, we had surveys done. Derek, I think 30% of all of the houses that were surveyed in that work that was done have poor insulation in the Southern Highlands. It's ridiculous. I mean, people living in tents, it's uncomfortable, it's unhealthy, and has a huge energy cost.